Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Matt, I am the American-Canadian Gamer, and today I want to talk to you about Titanfall. Now, when the game released, I had plenty of time to sit down and dedicate to it, and I played it for hours and hours on end, and after a little over 11 hours of game time, I did reach the maximum rank, which is 50, and then I prestiged, and yes, there is a prestige system in this game, and it's called regeneration, and they made some weird lore up about how your body is regenerated and you lose your knowledge, yet you retain your experience, and it's really weird. It's some lore mumbo-jumbo. And essentially what you need to know is now I'm a Generation 2 pilot, and in the lore I'm supposed to be much more effective because I've essentially had a past life as a pilot, and I carry that experience with me, yet I still have to learn how to use all the guns and rank up all over again. But that being said, now that I have reached this point in the game, I do feel much more comfortable talking about my thoughts and feelings on it and where I think this game is kind of going to go. Now, I guess you could kind of consider this my review of the game, but I would use the term review very loosely. This isn't really a proper review, but this is probably the closest you're going to get to it from me. And the first thing that I want to say is that this game is everything that I wanted it to be, and so much more. It takes everything that I love about multiplayer shooters, throws them all together, polishes it up, and presents it very beautifully. Everything that I love in shooters is present in this game. It has speed, it has mobility, it's lethal, it's satisfying, it feels good, it gives you that adrenaline rush. Everything that I love about shooters is here, and it even adds things that I never even thought would be in shooters, like the Titans. The Titans are the big example that everyone's talking about, and with good reasons, because there's something that's really shaking the game up. And we've seen mechs in games before. I mean, there's been mech first-person shooters that have existed in the past, but this is the first time they've been used in the manner in which we see in this game, where they fight alongside the pilots in this weird pilot-titan metagame that is absolutely outstanding. And Titans are not nearly as overpowered as you would think they would be. I mean, granted, I do really well in my Titans in the match that you're watching right now, but the game is still fairly new, and a lot of players are very new to the game. You'll notice I'm the highest ranked player in this game. There are a lot of people that aren't even level 10 yet that don't know how to deal with Titans very effectively quite yet. This guy right here, he's doing pretty well. The guy that I'm fighting right now, he kind of knows what he's doing. But for the most part, a lot of people don't really know how to deal with Titans just yet. And I'm really surprised by how well Titans are balanced in the game. They are big and they are surprisingly fast. Titans are surprisingly fast. But because of their size, they are forced to take much more predictable paths than the pilots are. And the pilots, even though they're weaker, a lot weaker, they only can survive one, maybe two shots from a Titan. They are a lot faster, and they have a lot more options in terms of their mobility and where they can reach. They can get above Titans, they can cloak and run away from Titans. The pilots have a lot more tools at their disposal, and a smart pilot can take down a Titan pretty effectively. And it's really interesting to see how well these two aspects are balanced together, and it's probably the best thing about this game, because that's what I was worried about most, was thinking that the Titans were just going to become the center of attention and the focus. And it's true that the Titans are really important for pushing and capturing objectives and counter pushing, and they really work into their own meta, but they aren't a direct counter to a pilot. Pilots are incredibly powerful, and I feel much more comfortable and much more powerful as a pilot than as a Titan. And part of that is due to the fact that the maps are very well designed for pilot mobility. It seems that every sector of every map was designed with the idea of, can you jump from this to this as a pilot? And they looked at everything and said, how do you get from point A to point B without ever touching the ground? I really think that that's how they approach the design of these maps, because it feels like you almost never have to touch the ground if you don't want to. The maps are very well built for Titans as well. There's plenty of places for them to move and dash, and there's these big open areas for Titan on Titan battles, but there's also these closed, cramped spaces where two Titans fighting is them usually ducking around some cover, taking pot shots at each other. There's plenty of variety within every single map, and they're all really good size. I've said this before, but the maps are very comparable to Battlefield maps. These maps are enormous, but they don't feel enormous because both the Titans and the players are incredibly fast and incredibly mobile, and they can get around the map really quickly. The maps are big, but they aren't overwhelmingly big. Alright, now let's move away from this and talk about some of the mechanics of the game, and the thing I want to talk about first are burn cards. Now, burn cards, alongside Titans, are the replacement for kill streaks in this game. And burn cards, I really like burn cards because I think they bring everything that is great about a kill streak and get rid of everything that sucks about a kill streak, because the thing about a kill streak is it's a kill streak. If you don't do good, you don't get the kill streak. It becomes a very rich get rich, poor get poor kind of situation. However, with burn cards, you get to select 3 kill streaks, essentially, and activate them whenever you want in a match. Now, you have to activate them between lives, so if you never die, you don't get to use your burn cards, and you can select one at the beginning of a match. And what this means is that you can burn all of these cards really quickly and get a lot of power very early on in the game, or you can spread them out throughout the match and kind of utilize them a little bit to get these little bursts of power, or you can save them for when you really need it and risk not using them. And each system has its own rewards. Do you want to use really powerful burn cards in the beginning to try to get an early lead on the other team and hope that they don't come back? Do you want to kind of spread them out and kind of use them periodically to keep your enemy on their toes and give you a little bit more flexibility? Or do you want to select ones for anti-Titan duty and other things to save for when you really need a trump card to come back at the last second and risk not having a situation where the burn cards might be useful, or that it'll get to the point where even if you pop a burn card, it might already be too late? However, I do still have some problems with the game, and one of the things is actually the loadout system of the game. It feels just a little bit anemic, like there's not enough substance in the loadouts, and that might partially be because I'm kind of spoiled from other games that give you a ton of loadout options, but from the guys that actually, made Call of Duty 4 and created that system in the first place, I expected a little bit more from the loadout system. Now, that being said, there aren't really many bad choices for your loadout. Pretty much everything works really well, but there's not very many perks. There's only 2 perk slots, and there's only 3 tactical abilities, which are pretty much the armor abilities of the game. And I really expected more. It doesn't feel like there's very many choices in that regard. But at the same time, I do approve of how they approach the weapons. Now, the weapons, there aren't as many choices, which just kind of contradicts what I just said, but just hear me out. Instead of having a bunch of weapons that are pretty much slightly modified copy-pastes of each other, now each weapon is its own thing. It has its own playstyle and its own identity, similar to how we see the weapons handle in Halo 4. In Halo 4, all of the weapons are their own weapon. They're not slight variations of another one. And the same thing happens here. Each weapon that you take has a playstyle associated with it, and when you select to use that weapon, you're pretty much saying, I'm going to use this weapon in a very specific way. But I wish there were still a few more options to round out the rest of your loadout. A few more perks, a couple more tactical abilities, some more ordnance slots, and maybe some more secondary weapons, and it would have really given the loadout system a lot more substance to it. Now, like I said, it doesn't seem like there's really many bad choices with what you can do, so at least it has that going for it, but compared to a lot of other shooters, the options that you do have for your loadout aren't really that substantial. Now, when it comes to weapon balance, all of the weapons do feel pretty well balanced. The only one that I do have any problems with is the shotgun. I mentioned this in my most recent live commentary with Titanfall. The shotgun is definitely a bit more powerful than it should be. It has a good rate of fire, it has a pretty good magazine size to it, it's really consistent, has some pretty good range, and does a lot of damage. It is really easy to one-shot somebody, even if they're not, like, really in the middle of your crosshair. And in a game that's really all about movement and avoiding, I think the shotgun being able to take somebody out so easily is kind of counterintuitive to the whole mobility aspect, because you're expected to kind of be able to balance these factors of movement, aiming, and firing and hitting your target with a level of accuracy, yet the shotgun removes that. Now granted, it doesn't really have any range, but it's like the Scout in Team Fortress 2. When you're so fast and you have so much mobility, range isn't really a factor, and the shotgun is a really powerful weapon. I would not be surprised if it would be nerfed at some point in the future. I mean, like I've said this before, this is the same company that made the Model 1887 shotguns in Modern Warfare 2. They haven't always handled weapon balance perfectly in the past, but having just one weapon be a little bit more powerful than it should be is not so bad when you look at all of the other weapons. Everything is pretty well balanced, and when you take a weapon, you don't feel like you're making a sacrifice. It's not like taking some weapons in Call of Duty. In Call of Duty, when you take some weapons, and even in Halo when you take some weapons, you're kind of like gimping yourself. Like it's not the best choice you could be taking, and it would be better for you to use something else. I haven't had that feeling yet in Titanfall. It definitely seems like the carbine is a really solid weapon, and the shotgun is really solid, but the other weapons are not lackluster. The other weapons do handle very well, and they're all very competent. The only one that stands out too much is the shotgun, is the only one I think is just a bit too powerful. But I guess the only question that's left to ask is, does Titanfall live up to the hype? All this major marketing, all this hype surrounding this game, does Titanfall live up to it? No. And it's the simple reason that nothing could live up to the hype that was surrounding Titanfall. It was being hailed as the next big revolutionary step in next-gen gaming, that this was going to be the game that changed everything, and on some levels it does change quite a bit. But so much hype was built up around this that nothing could stand up to what our imaginations could create when thinking about this game. But that aside, this game is probably the best first-person shooter we have had in the past, well, decade, probably. This thing is incredible. It's not revolutionary in any super meaningful way. A lot of the things we see in it have been done in games before, but the whole is much better than the sum of its parts. If you break it all down and look at all the different pieces, you'll think, okay, this game did this better, this was better here, this was better here, but the game is much bigger than the sum of its parts, and that is what makes it so special, is they took everything, they strung it all together really intricately, and they just made it all work as best as they could. And that's what makes Titanfall special, is you could tell there was care, there was attention. You look at the way a Titan moves, you look at the way players interact with the environments, you look at all the little stuff that's happening around a map, and you can tell there is definite care, love, and attention put into this game. And a lot of people have been wondering if a multiplayer-only game justified a $60 price tag, and I think it does. I think with Titanfall, you can definitely see the work that was put into it, and I think it definitely justifies the $60 price tag that is on the game. If at any point in your life you have enjoyed first-person shooters, then I suggest giving Titanfall a chance. Whether you get it on sale, you get it used, or you buy it over at a friend's place, it is definitely a game that is worth your consideration. And even if you're not really into first-person shooters, or you're only kind of dabbling into them, it's still a game that's worth your consideration because it's such a solid and well-put-together experience. Titanfall may not be the big revolutionary title that it was hyped up to be, the game that would set the precedent for all of next-gen gaming, but it is one of the most well-crafted games I have ever played. It's the best shooter I have played in recent years, and that's coming from somebody that plays pretty much every shooter that comes out. If you followed my channel at all, you know that I play a lot of shooters, and I'm saying that this is one of the best I have ever played. But I think this video has gone on long enough. I'm going to go ahead and end it here. Thank you so much for sitting through it with me and hearing me talk about this game. If you're thinking about it, definitely go check out other reviews. Don't just listen to what I say, because if you can't tell, I'm just a little bit biased towards the game. And if you can get your hands on it before you buy it, definitely give it a shot. It's something, like I've said, is worth consideration. So, as always, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching. My name is Matt, and I'll see you next time.